Okay, hello students. So we're going to go over income distribution. So income distribution is how it shows who makes what kind of money, right? How much money does each section of the population make? So this is about the United States. So this information is about the USA. And we see our x-axis here is going to have increments of $5,000. So if your income goes up $5,000, you move up one little X or one little chit across here. On our y-axis, we've got the percent of families that make that. So if 5% of families make a certain income, so make whatever, like 50 grand, it's gonna go up to here. So the taller the bar graph, that means the more people are in that group. Cool, pretty simple, right? So let's take a look at 100 grand. So this is families that make 100 grand, families or an individual person. So this could be a mom and a dad, each making 50 grand, or it could be one person making 100 grand. So how many people are making that? Right around 2%, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, right in that zone. So you could say 2% of all Americans make about 5 grand. Sorry, I mean 2% of Americans make 100 grand. I'm sorry, not 5 grand, that's wrong. So let's look at median. Median means the middle. So what the median means is that half of everybody makes more than this amount and half of everybody makes less. So the median income is about 50 grand in the United States. Look at that. Half of everybody makes less than 50 G's, 50 grand. Now, half of everybody makes more, but that's the median right here. And so 50% is concentrated in this 50 grand, 60 grand range. It's down here. And so what you see is the overwhelming majority of Americans, overwhelmingly like 2-1, are making 100 grand or less, right in sort of this sweet spot zone. And then as you go up income, you see fewer people making it. So like hardly anybody makes 180 grand, right? Because it's about 0.5%. But then there's this weird phenomenon where actually making over $200,000 is very common, way more common. More people in America, more families make 200 grand than make 110 grand. Very strange. We'll get into that a little bit later, but about 2% make between 200 and 250 grand, and about 2% make over $250,000. And so here you've got your CEOs, your doctors, your big law lawyers, frankly, your professional athletes. That's who's up here. Okay. So remember these numbers, right? A lot of money, thousands of dollars. This is global income distribution. Now, this is about 10 years old, but it's more or less true. There's fewer people now living in extreme poverty, but it's pretty similar. China got richer, definitely. China got a lot richer here. India got richer, but this is basically the same. So go back up to these numbers, right? You're going to see the lowest amount is like 5 grand here. So that's down here. So the majority of Americans, so even people making like 20 grand a year, almost all Americans are in this higher end in terms of income on a global scale when you take into account the 8 billion people that are alive on the planet. And then these other countries, pretty much almost everybody, 90% of the population, 95% of the population is living below $10,000 a day. Most of China $10,000 a year. Most of China lives on less than $10,000 a year. Most of India lives on less than $10,000 a year. Most of Latin America, that's your Mexicos, your Costa Ricas, your Guatemalas, live on less than 10 grand a year, right? And then this line here, these are people living on less than $2 a day. So these are the absolute poor, okay? And then one last chart. This just shows you a little bit more current. How this is dollars per day. So again, about $50,000 is 200 grand a day. Most Americans are right here, and what you're going to see is that this red means Asian countries, and this blue is African countries. Most global countries are living